Hey everybody, welcome to Bullman Photography. It's Sunday, February 14th as I'm recording this, and it was -9 Fahrenheit today in Boston. So I've been pretty much cooped up for most of the weekend, and I decided to make a video today about a hot topic, the analog renaissance. So we're going to be discussing today whether film's making a comeback or whether it's all just smoke and mirrors.
I got broads in Atlanta, just to the lean in the family. Credit cards in the scammers, hitting the list in the drama. Legacies, family.
So I'd like to frame the discussion today by talking about Kodak. Now, about a year ago, the New York Times did a short documentary piece about the company called After the Kodak Moment. And this piece really went into the recent decline of Kodak and the new business ventures that they were taking on as they were moving away from film. And the piece made it seem like film was really dying and Kodak was no longer going to be supporting it. But within the last year, Kodak has made some interesting moves that have shown that they're still committed to making film and that they're actually able to make money off of it. Now, several major filmmakers in the motion picture business have shown a commitment to film and that they want to continue to shoot movies on film. So movies like Interstellar and The Hateful Eight and the new Star Wars and Jurassic Park movies were all shot on film, and Kodak has actually made deals with several major studios to continue producing film for these companies. Now, with this major support from several major players in the film industry, Kodak has actually turned the company around, and now they're going to be profitable for the first quarter in this year for the first time in many years. Kodak is a company that has been losing millions and millions of dollars for the last several years, and this is the first time that they're actually going to turn a profit. So it looks like the production of film is actually going to strengthen their business. Now, this has led to a really interesting announcement last month. Kodak announced that they are going to be releasing a new Super 8 film camera. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Super 8, basically it was a consumer film camera that was produced in the 50s and 60s and sold to many people to make home movies. And I think this is a really interesting move for a number of reasons. Super 8 has not been a popular format for a number of decades, but a lot of famous filmmakers started out experimenting with Super 8 film because it was something that amateurs could get their hands on and begin making their own movies. So I think this is going to be a really interesting thing, and you can go out and look at the press releases and check out the product page on Kodak's website. This camera is supposed to come out later this year, and it's sort of a digital analog hybrid camera. So it's going to have a digital viewfinder, but will still shoot to Super 8 film. Another thing that I think is really interesting about this is the way they're packaging and selling the film. You pay for the processing and scanning of the film all up front. So when you buy Super 8 film from Kodak, you pay a pretty large chunk of change up front, I think about $50 for a cartridge of film. But once you've shot it, you just send it to Kodak, they develop it, and then scan it and give you a digital copy of it and mail the developed film back to you as well. So I think this is really interesting and something that could really make this model work. So these recent events have actually had Kodak throwing around the term analog renaissance. But what does this trend mean for photographers? Are we really seeing a huge comeback for film? I think film is making somewhat of a comeback, but it's not a massive resurgence in it by any means. Along with these news items, there have been a number of companies that are folding, film labs are closing, major film products like the Holga or the Voigtlander Bessa medium format camera have been discontinued. A lot of other film stocks have been discontinued. So I think right now what we're seeing is sort of a resurgence in a small market, and that there's a small group of dedicated people who are still wanting to shoot film, and I think it's really great. Film is clearly not going away, and we're going to see film shooting for a long time, but I don't think that we can really call this an analog renaissance, and that's something that's really important to point out. But aside from Kodak, I think we've also seen some really interesting trends with some smaller companies who have found success and support from people who want to continue shooting film. I think the examples of the Film Forania Kickstarter, which raised over $300,000 to reopen a film factory in Italy, and the recent Indiegogo campaign of Cinestill to produce medium format motion picture film for still cameras, which has raised over $100,000 in about 10 days, are examples that show that people are really still committed to shooting film. So as I was doing research for this video, I tried to think of different categories of people who would be more likely to shoot digital or more likely to shoot film, or some combination of the both. So for people who are just sort of taking casual snapshots of their daily life or stuff to share on social media, those people are probably just going to continue to shoot digital photos with their smartphone. They're not really looking for a lot of frills, and the whole process of learning to shoot film and going and getting it developed and all that is just too tedious and cumbersome for someone who's really not that interested in taking more serious photographs. But it's not just the casual shooters who are going to stick to digital. I think there are a lot of professionals who prefer the conveniences of digital and prefer the image quality that you can get out of some of the high-end cameras. Now, certainly shooting with something that has like a 36 or 24 megapixel sensor is going to get you a nice crisp image that you might not be able to get out of 35 millimeter film. And also professional photographers who are under tremendous time constraints, like photojournalists, real estate photographers, those types of people are going to probably stick with digital cameras because it's just much more convenient to their workflow to be able to turn around images in a timely manner. Now, who are the types of people who would be interested in shooting film? There are a lot of people who are just purists and love the way film looks and feels and want to continue to shoot that, and there are people who just are used to it from being in an older generation and all they had was film, and so these people will continue to support film. But I think there are a number of other folks who are just interested in getting into it, interested in the process and the aesthetic, and that's sort of where I fall. And these types of people will also continue to go out and shoot film, and they'll probably shoot digital too. I shoot a combination of both. So I think what we're going to see is the people who are really dedicated to making film continue on are people who really just love shooting it, who really love photography as a hobby, or who are really committed to it for a sort of professional photographers who are really committed to it for aesthetic purposes. So in conclusion, I think that film is definitely not dead, and that it's been proven that there's a dedicated community of people who are committed to keeping film alive. So I think it's going to stick around for a while, but that depends on our continued support of the medium. And I don't think that we should conflate this or say that there's an analog renaissance or that everybody's going out and picking up film cameras, because I still think it's a small number of people. And whether film continues to exist in the future is going to depend on us and our continued support for the medium. So let me know what you think by leaving a comment, and be sure to check out my website at danbullman.com. Until next time, this is Dan Bullman Photography.